Lifeboat Live. We have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass is my partner, Mark Wages. And why do I feel like I'm like this? Do I look a little crooked? I feel a little crooked.
Maybe a touch. No.
That
My ass a little better. Yeah, we're good.
All right, good. Now I'm feeling a little better. So looks like we got a good crew here this evening. Great show last night, everybody. That was just a really good show. And, you know, I've talked about the behind baseball things here occasionally. You know, sometimes you get off of a show and you go, man, I wish more people saw that, because it just, everybody was in the audience was just sort of clicking, and you know, so sometimes that's a bummer. And I went to sleep, and when I woke up, there was a stink load of views. It was one of those things that sort of, I guess everybody got there a minute late, but that's good. That's good. I'm glad that my brother says I have that feeling all the time. I bet you do. I bet that you do. Okay, we have talked about this before. The exit sign is back. You're a little slow, Blue. It's been back a minute. That's all right. We won't hold it against you. Second video, I think it's up. We've talked about this before, but it was a long time ago, a really, really long time ago. So unless you have been on the boat a long, long time, you probably have not heard us talk about this. Squirrel says noise opera. Yeah, I've got priors. So you would think this is a question that almost doesn't need to be asked. Niall says, what on earth is the telephone exchange behind you? Niall, those are watches being wound on a watch winder. So if anyone's looking at that thinking, yeah, I've got a telephone exchange back there, that is just a watch winder. That's what that's doing. So people, this is a question it feels like you don't have to answer, doesn't it? I mean, honestly, because of the fact that we're addicts, it's a very simple thing normally to look at the lifestyle you're living and go, all right, there's a very serious problem here. And with certain drugs of choice, it becomes very, very easy, painfully easy, right? Take 3 days off. Let me know how things are going. You know, you start taking 3 days off and you're crippled, right? You literally are vomiting and defecating on yourself, and you don't have the ability to get up and walk across the room. There's an excellent chance you're addicted, right? But there are a lot of drugs out there that don't do that don't have the physical, addictions. And it really is one of those questions that, believe it or not, I get emails all the time from people who say, I don't know if I'm an addict, which I don't know. It just seems like that would be an easy question, but we get enough of them where I thought that this is something we probably ought to talk about. So before we get rolling, the first thing I want to talk about is denial, right? Not denial in the chat right now or the river in Egypt. Actually denial, right? The act of claiming that you're not something that you are, right? Denying that you have a problem. Very often you hear people say it's one of the first signs of addiction. The really funny thing is, if you've been using long enough, right? And this is one of those times where I'll use the term partying. I've told you before I don't like that, but in high school and college, you really are partying, right? It's not drug abuse. It's that you're going out and you're having a good time, and there really are parties, and that's sort of how the whole thing starts. But what's amazing is at that age, people lie about their alcohol and drug use to make it sound like they're doing more, right? Absolutely bizarre. But when you first start off, there is that certain element of what you're doing is edgy, right? And what you're doing is cool. And I can't tell you the number of times that there are people who carry that through their entire life. And it's a phenomenon you see in prison. People constantly, where someone will say, I hit rock bottom. I drank 2 cases of beer, and I had done, an 8 ball of meth. And I promise you can bet your freedom someone's going to go, that's nothing, right? There may be 2 people that say it at the same time, and the guy's going to spit out a larger amount of everything that the guy just said. And, it's sort of that outdoing one another by being a worse addict, I guess. But when we first start in the game, very oftentimes denial is not an issue. In fact, we brag about it because it's edgy and it's cool. I would say this: if you find yourself saying to someone, oh, I drink once a week, tops, but you drink 4 times a week or 5 times a week, that's probably not a good sign, right? And if you're drinking every day and you're telling people, no, I haven't had a drink in 2 weeks, if you're lying about your usage, that's bad. Now, does that mean that you're an alcoholic or a drug addict? Not necessarily. None of these are hard and fast. But as you start to collect more of them, right, then it starts to really point toward there being a fairly serious problem. But denial being one of the first things, and very often you're going to hear people say, very first sign, right? Very first sign. Niall says it could take years for family to realize that their addicted loved one is an expert pathological liar and manipulator, to the extent that they will fall in line naturally with the dialogue. And absolutely right. I mean, there's so much truth to that. And the sad thing is that the farther along you are in your addiction, the better you get at those skills, right? So, if you've got a son or a daughter that's out there and they're doing some things and you have a feeling that they're partying, you're going to catch them in lies. It's going to be very easy. They're not, because this is a very new thing that they're trying. This is not something that, if you take someone that's been using for 10 or 15 years, or God forbid, 3 decades, they've gotten very good at lying. It's one of the reasons that, we've talked about this before, that very oftentimes addicts will start lying about things that make absolutely no sense, right? The hell would he lie about that for, right? No one was even calling him on. The reason is it becomes a habit. Someone that's been using for 10 or 15 years, or God forbid, 3 decades, they've gotten very good at lying. It's one of the reasons that, we've talked about this before, that very often. There we go. Can I get a 5x5 from somebody?
You're good now. I fixed it.
I'm good?
That was me.
Okay.
Sorry.
That was, all right. No problem.
Well, 7's in here, and I went to push the mute, and it flipped on me, and I actually muted you for like 5 seconds. So that was me.
That's all right. It happens to the best of us. Niall is absolutely right. The lying thing becomes, worse and worse the more you go on. However, by the time you get to that form of polished pathological lying, you're an addict. That's usually not, at least that's my humble opinion. At least absolutely for me. By the time I was covering my tracks that way and creating all of these just absolute ridiculous stories to cover my use, to cover why I wasn't there the previous weekend because I might have been in jail, and all of those things. By that point, I knew I was in fairly serious trouble. And trouble is something else that comes up. And I'm pulling these out of order, people, and there's a reason that I'm doing that. And the reason that I'm doing it is I have done this before. So if you're listening to this, the last thing in the world I would want to do is do the exact same show. I mean, granted, we don't really work from from notes or from anything else. It's got one of the I just got a message from somebody and I couldn't read it, and I think it had something to do with the boat. So I'm just doing it a little out of order because I don't want this to get boring with anybody. But one of the things that you see constantly as you start to look at different forms of abuse, right? Because you can basically put them into two camps. It's either going to be drugs, right, or it's going to be alcohol. That's not to say alcohol is not a drug, but it is. There is a distinction between the two of them because of how these things go on, because of how you ingest it, because of what it does to you. There is a very discernible difference between alcohol and drugs as far as that goes. And if you start blacking out, right? If you're a drinker and you start losing periods of time, you go out and the following day you can't remember anything that happened, that is a very bad sign. I mean, there are, again, nothing's hard and fast. You could have done the first time you went out, never had a drink before, and you drink, a half a bottle of vodka, you're going to end up blacking out. But I'm talking about the people that do this on a regular basis. If you start losing, chunks of time and blackouts become normal to you, most people can remember the first time they blacked out, and it was terrifying, right? The first time you wake up and you go, I don't have any idea what I did last night, right? I don't know how my car got home. I don't know how any of these things happened. Hello, T Prada. That becomes something that is really frightening when it becomes second nature. When someone says, what did you do last night? Well, I wouldn't know, it's just something that it just becomes so much part of the pathology of your abuse and your and how you're living that you become accustomed to it. And my brother says, I had a few blackouts in college, but never as an adult. And I think that that's kind of a key point. As I said, none of these are hard and fast because Johnny had a very serious drinking problem. But hello, Rip Curl, he had the kind of drinking problem that he drank every single day, and he drank, the longer he was in, the more and more that he drank. But he was never one of those people that went out and did the binge drinking type thing where he'd sit at a bar and close it every single night. I've told stories on the boat before, and since no one knows who she is, and I never use her name, I don't feel bad talking about this. But my first wife had a drinking problem, and she's been sober a really long time, really got her life together. But she would take the top off of a bottle of booze and drink it. Like she could take it off and throw it in the trash because she did not have the ability to put a cap back on. Literally. Like there was that compulsion to just continue to drink. Kylie Morrison, have not seen Kylie in a long time. Glad that you're here. But she could knock down a fifth, which is about 30 shots, 32 shots, right? That's a lot of booze. And this was a little, 125 pound, not a big woman, but I've never seen anyone who drank the way she did. And she blacked out every time she drank. And that was sort of just, her goal in life. Another symptom, and this is, again, not hard and fast, but there are definitely brands of people with alcohol abuse disorder who cannot leave a drink, right? Literally. I remember having a conversation with somebody we were talking about this, and they had a drink. We were sitting at dinner. I said, you know what? There's a lot of things you can do to test yourself. I'm like, you got what? There's about half of that drink left. Leave it. When we get up, just leave it here. Forget about it. He's like, I could do that. And hey, Brandon, thank you, my friend. He literally could not leave it. He got up and he was like, you know what? This is stupid. I paid for this. I was like, dude, are you telling me you can't leave it? He's like, I could leave it, but I paid for it. I'm not going to do it. I went, oh my God. So I talked him into it to leaving, and he doubled back. Gave me some excuse. I don't remember if there's glasses or keys or something, but he went back and drank that. And that is something that, there are people who cannot finish, who cannot leave a drink unfinished. All of these things, as you start looking through them and you go, oh, I can check that off. That definitely is something. I can check that off. That's definitely something. When you start getting a little bit deeper into it, then you're going to start going through daily withdrawals. If you have a drinking problem, every single morning when you wake up, there's going to be a hangover. Now, many addicts will drink right then because all a hangover is acute alcohol withdrawal, right? You don't have any more in your system and your body is very, very uncomfortable about it. So drinking more, keeping the buzz going. And I know people that, will say, I did that for 25 years, night, morning, that literally never, ever sobered up. That used to confuse me so much. People who could leave a drink behind didn't really compute for me. Says Cooley McCoolson, sorry. Yeah, and there's so much behavior like that where you look and go, how is that possible? Because we're wired just so differently. Jack has come on the show before. You guys all know Jack. I used to give Jack my dope at 5 o'clock because if I had a gram of heroin in the house, I was going to do it before breakfast. And if I had 6 grams in the house, I was going to do it before breakfast. And if I had a pound, I was going to do everything within my power to do it before breakfast. I wouldn't get through it, but I sure as hell would try. So I would give it to Jack to take home, and he would just have to come here in the morning. It was crazy. Anyone who has complete blackouts from the first drink have to stop drinking, because every decision after that can lead to awful scenarios. Because in that case, all bets are off where you go or with who. And it's a really key point, because when he said those who black out from the first drink, you realize that this is one unit of alcohol will burn off in 1 hour, right? That's what your liver does. If you drink long enough, that stops. That equation begins to go away, and you end up with something that is called reverse tolerance, right? So the liver is nothing but a filter. It filters poison out of your body. That's its job, right? Does it around the clock, 24/7 from the time you're born to the time you die. That's what it does, right? And once that liver begins to shut down and it's not working the way it's supposed to, you put an ounce of alcohol into your body, which normally would be burned off within the hour. If it's going to take your liver 6 hours to get rid of that, then you're loaded on that first drink, because you don't have the ability to start processing it. And it just continues to go around and around and around. But it's a really key point, because if you find yourself in reverse tolerance, if you have 4 drinks and 7 or 8 hours later, you're still looped, you really have done this too long. You've gone too far. It's really becoming an issue. Lawrence of Aragon says, I never drank every day. There are people with mad drinking problems who don't drink every day. There's so many different forms of drinking problem and of abuse. There are people who can take off 1 or 2 days a week. I had a father-in-law like that who was absolutely addicted to alcohol, but he would do 1 to 2 days a week, usually because those were the days he had to spend with his wife. But he was miserable. He would white knuckle through those days. It was no fun to be around. I always wanted to sort of sneak him a drink. I mean, in all honesty, at that point in my life, I didn't much care if someone was addicted, and it was really, really tough to be around the guy when he was in that condition, so to speak. Now, this is not unique to alcohol, but when you start having problems, right, life problems, the first one's going to be obvious, right? If your cash runs out on Wednesday, right, your paycheck is gone by Wednesday, or you blow your paycheck and you can't remember how you did it. If you start having money problems because of your drink, that's a problem. If you start having problems with loved ones, if people start saying to you things like, hey, you know what, you're really out of control. And of course, we're going to get very defensive over that, and it does cause serious problems. But if you have problems with cash, if you have problems with family or friends, and finally, if you have problems with the law, right? If you're on your 2nd or 3rd DWI, that's probably a serious problem. Right? If that first one didn't scare the hell out of you and you're continuing to drink and get behind the wheel of a car, those are decisions, like Niall just said, that you're probably not making on your own. That's the drink making the decision. Niall says, I was the type of drinker who used to drink to prevent blackout. I would have to know where I was and how I could get home. All these risks I could not remember. Late stage madness. And I'm glad that he said that, because I'm telling you, people, there really is, if you say, what does the textbook alcoholic looks like? What do they look like? You will have a preconceived notion in your head. But if you've got 200, people who are abusing drugs or alcohol, you're going to have pretty close to 200 different kinds of people. I mean, there are patterns. There are binge drinkers. There are daily drinkers. There are people who drink alone, right? There are people who are addicted to alcohol who never drink alone, ever. And there are people who only do. But once you start linking all of these things together, and if you're listening to the sound of my voice and you sent me one of those emails, if you got to ask the guy running a sobriety channel a question like, how do I tell if I'm an addict? There's a pretty good chance you're an addict, right? Because if you're not, it's not even something that crosses your mind. Whether you're being honest or not, whether it's subconscious or not, you are asking that question because you know that there's something that isn't quite right. and you don't always come out with the details because, again, in the stages of before you decide to own it and say, I have a problem, I need help, you're going to deny this to everybody, including yourself, which is really, it gets fairly frightening. But again, people, the big one, by the time this thing starts costing you with the law, right, or your health, these things are flashing red lights that you really need help. If you're listening to the sound of my voice and the doctor has said to you, hey, your liver's looking bad, it's time to quit. You cannot continue to push this. Again, if you have a couple of DWIs, or if you have nothing left to show and it's difficult going to work because you're drinking, and everybody you know is saying to you, it's probably time you pump the brakes, right? What I used to find absolutely fascinating was, I had a couple of people, 3 friends in particular, that tried to do an intervention, literally, like you see in the TV shows. And the ridiculous thing was, the previous Friday night, this was like a Sunday, and that previous Friday night, 2 days earlier, I was doing drugs with everybody in the car, right? So when they started trying to do my thing was, I was getting high with you 2 days ago, and the truth is, there are people who can say, I think you have a problem, who do drugs. You understand that does not take away their credibility, because not everybody that does drugs is an addict. There are people who, believe it or not, have the ability to get high and then stop getting high. I know that sounds just foreign as hell to everybody here. It certainly does to me. It doesn't make any sense. But those people exist. And at the time, I was looking for any reason to get out of that room. So that was just the one I went with, because I was not ready to get even close to at that time. Anytime somebody even brought up the prospect of quitting, I would get claustrophobic. And that's really the only way that I can describe it. Wherever I was started to push in on me. And it's just was a terrifying feeling. It was like heroin was my best friend. And it was in my mind going, get out of here, get out of here. They're trying to kill the both of us. Get out of here, run, right? They're going to stop you and I from hanging out, run. And if that sounds crazy to you, I promise that's what's going on, right? You are not your brain. You're not. You're that does not what makes you who you are. Believe it or not, it's not. And very oftentimes your brain is fighting against you, doing everything it can to keep you using drugs.
Congrats, TNT. It's a good thing, man. He quit alcohol on the 29th of July.
Oh, good for you, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep,
I absolutely love it.
Need some ones in the chat for that, for sure.
Yeah, if we could toss up some ones, that would be awesome. That is a dangerous drug, people. We don't give it enough credit. Ask Niall. He will articulate beautifully how dangerous that drug really is. The terror of those situations is acute with every addict. Every day is like a constant panic attack. I am conscious of people who may not like this direct approach, but that is the reality. You know what? Honestly, the direct approach, I don't know. I'm more of a fan of it myself. I really am. However, I'm never going to see anyone that there's not hope for. And very often there are people who paint such a dark picture that, people feel as if there's no hope. I honestly don't believe that there's a case that, which is beyond hope. Now, when you start getting into drugs, people, again, I could do this for 5 different drugs, but it doesn't matter. You understand that if you're addicted to cocaine, it's no different in the brain, right? Or in the habits or anything else of being addicted to anything else, including alcohol for that matter. Granted, you're going in 2 different directions, but the addictive properties, the things that you're going to do, the behaviors it's going to cause are not wildly different. You're going to begin to lie to people about how much of it you use, right? No matter what the drug is, you're going to get to that point where you start lying about how much you do. You're going to start lying about how much you spend, right? And right around the first time that it occurs to you that you're going to be able to do a lot more dope if you never get high with anybody else. The first time it occurs to you that this can't be a social drug anymore because those people don't need it and I need it. When that thought starts to creep in, trust me, you've got a problem.
Yep.
That is a dead giveaway.
And I would say this too, guys. If you are hiding it at all, there's no reason to hide it unless you actually think there's an issue that somebody's going to have if they see you doing it. So if you're hiding that stuff, there's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and sometimes I think that even though we know it, like you said earlier, when you probably know if you're addicted if you call if you're going to be contacting
Reaching
Tommy
out.
or reaching out or what
Yeah.
have you. But sometimes it does take somebody else just to go ahead and say it to you.
Right.
And
No, no, you're absolutely right. That's the reality dose when somebody, does the, yeah, you bet you do. And everybody knows it. Like that really is. I remember learning that I had not really pulled the wool over as many eyes as I thought I had. And it was devastating. It really was. It was one of those things that got a hold of me. Annoyed says, I don't feel like I'm addicted to a certain substance. I'm addicted to using a substance, though, whether it be nicotine, alcohol, THC, or even caffeine. Something always takes the place of the other. And there are those people for whom what they're using is not as important as the fact that they're using, right? I know those people, honestly, and they'll tell you, oh, no, I haven't done Coke in 2 months. And you go, wow, congratulations. I'm doing like 16 Valium a day. And you're going, what the hell? And they just keep sort of riding from one addiction to another. And they've got cool names for that in psychology or whatever. What it boils down to is we are addicts. And I think it was Johnny that said, you know what? It was always sort of going out. He knew it from Jump Street, from day one, he was an addict. And that the type of addiction that he had, he was out looking for that one thing that was really going to be just perfect for him. And he tried all of them, before he settled on one. What's another name for a clever duck? Wisecracker. Yee.
nah. All right, Steve, we're gonna get you in here, man. I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and unmute, bud.
You know what? That would be a good time.
Yeah, thanks so too.
All right, you hear me now?
Yep.
I can hear you now.
Okay, don't know what was up last night.
We got you, man. What's up?
Well, just want a second opinion.
Right.
I'm assuming, my addiction is talking to me that, well, you only wanted it to make it a year without drinking. You've done that. Man,
I'm not laughing at you. I did the same thing. That's why I'm not. I promise I'm not. Yeah. Don't feel like this is unique.
Yeah.
Right. This happens to just about everybody. When they say, yeah, if I can get to that first year. So what you've done is you've proven that you have no problem going an entire year, right? Let me tell you the problem, and you know it, but I'll give you the second opinion. If you say, I proved that I can go without it, so this really isn't a problem. I'm just going to have one drink. You might get away with that once. You might get away with that twice. But the day is going to come where you just go, you know what, screw it. I used to do this with heroin all the time. I would say, look at this, I got it under control. I managed to go, 4 weeks, right? Without it. I'd go through the detox and I would, and I'd say, so I'm just going to do this. I can do it on Monday. I can do it on Tuesday. Then I got to take a day off. I can't go 3 days in a row because I'll be addicted. And sometimes I could keep that going for up to 2 weeks. And then one day I'd be like, today is day 3. And you know what? Screw it. We don't have control. And the myth of control is something that kills as many people as just about anything else. And it destroys as many lives. Your brain wants nothing more than for you to believe that after a year, you can do this, right? Your brain is telling you no problem. Look at you, man. You went a whole year, right? Because the brain wants the path of least resistance. They don't want you struggling through things and doing all of that makes them go to work. What they'd rather have you do is reach for a bottle anytime things get tough. Anytime things get even slightly uncomfortable, just grab a bottle. You can make everything go away, right? That's what the brain tells you. And it does the same thing to all of us. Now, you can go and test it. You can, right? There's nothing stopping you. We certainly will not, get between you and the store and try to make sure that you don't do it. The outcome. I mean, I'm telling you stuff that you absolutely know, right? I know. Lost him. Oh, there you go. It's not making it any easier that though, huh?
Nope. I'm just
Sometimes,
trying to be persuasive,
yeah. Sometimes you just got to get
Well,
around people too when you're feeling like that.
Well, and here's the thing. You've been here a year, right? Uh, Honestly, when I think of the people that don't miss shows, you're the first person that I think of. Like literally, like we've had this conversation. Um, you are always here. So you know that when things start running through your head, you can't sit in that one spot, right? There are things you need to do. And you know that if it really starts bothering you to the point where it's really becoming an issue, you need connection, right? You can't be left to your own devices. A power greater than yourself can be two people. It can be three people. And I know for a fact that you have the ability to reach out to at least one person anytime you want because you've used it before, right? I'll take your call at 4 a.m. So
Mhm.
if you
Even
start
if I
feeling
pocket,
like that, what's that?
even if I pocket dial you.
Even if you pocket it, which he has done at about 3 a.m. Yeah, the sneaking in, wait for it. You're good. Sneak right in, no problem. Steve, you got this. I mean, you really do. And sometimes we got to go back and beat ourselves up a little bit more before we learn. I don't think that's your case. I really don't. Based on, there are people who have been here as long as you have who remember the last incident, right? And within a very short period of time, you put the brakes on and knew that there was something wrong. This is definitely, this is something that you're going to regret. Now, I really would be very interested to see you talk to a doctor and look into naltrexone and give it a couple of days, right? Give it a week and see what you think because the results have been absolutely amazing. It as far as any kind of research done on alcohol abuse disorder, nothing has ever had this kind of success. I mean, nothing. And for a lot of people, it almost takes all of that weight off. You go from holding on and getting through to not thinking about it. And what do you got to lose? Stuff's not going to get you high. You're not going to get strung out on it, right? There's nothing narcotic about it. It literally has no effect psychoactively. It's just going to affect the as far as mood. What it's going to do is the same kind of receptors in the brain that, not the receptors themselves, but the receptors trip a part of your brain that starts thinking, right? And what naltrexone does is puts that part of the brain to sleep for all intents and purposes. The same thing that it does for someone who's on opiates. It just shuts down that part of the thinking process. And, for a lot of people, that means peace. I would definitely look into it.
Well, the fact that you know that that's happening anyway, you're further along in the process than probably what you realize.
TNT. Did you see what TNT said? That's actually what's helping me. Naltrexone. Excellent. And you know what? I have yet to run into anyone who said that that didn't work for me. That is something that did I miss Bubba? Thanks, guys. However, in the gaps, in the grasps, in a bad way. Let's see here. Where are we at? Bubba, talk to me. Buddha, rather. That day 4 breaks me every time, man. So sick. Made it 10 months after rehab and my dog passed and boom, downward spiral. If you're saying day 3 or day 4, can I assume that this is opiates? Because that's, 3 and 4 are usually the atomic bomb for people on opiates. And if that's the case, my friend, please do me a favor.
I think he's talking about he's been off the wagon for 3 to 4 days.
Oh, he's been off the wagon for 3 or 4
After
days.
his dog
Okay.
passed. But if I read the chat right, I could have misread
Well,
it too.
that very well may be the case.
Yeah.
A very stressful situation got me 2 times. Thought I could handle the drink. It doesn't work. I had to be prepared to do something else when those times come. And boy, ain't that the ticket, right?
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's opiates. You're right. And heroin.
Yeah, I had a feeling when day 3 or 4 comes up.
Yeah.
And dawn morning, naltrexone works by temporarily binding and blocking a mechanism called the mu receptors, which there are 2 of in your brain, the mu1 and the mu2, which are absolutely tied to not only opiates but also to alcohol. Blocking the receptor tells our bodies that we aren't producing enough endorphins. The other crazy thing is that if you happen to drink while on naltrexone, it doesn't allow your brain to send the feel-good chemicals to make it, we talk about all the time. It's a malfunctioning reward center of the brain. It kind of puts the reward center of your brain back on track, especially for people who are suffering with alcohol use disorder. Hey, Buddha, do me a favor. When this is over, reach out to me. My emails are in the Dropbox, and that I understand where you're at, but it's a longer conversation than 15 minutes, and this is probably not the way to do it. But if you reach out to me, man, I would really like to talk to you. That's the gospel truth. I would love to talk to you.
Yeah, and Tommy's right on the button there when the 3 to 4 day thing goes, man. I mean, that is that you are, like you said, you're in the throes of it, man. It's rough. No doubt. No doubt. That's what we try to do. We try to keep it real, guys. We can't just be, hey, it's going to be a cakewalk, because it's not.
It's going to be a very difficult road. However,
we can get past it.
If you can learn from the people that went before you. 10 months of my dog passed. I've been fighting the good fight. Last 2 years, Suboxone doesn't work for me, and methadone is not an option. Okay, well, those aren't the only 2 options. So just reach out to me, man. Please do reach out to me. I would definitely, I would look forward to talking to you. I've done fairly well with that particular substance. We're doing pretty well. Zenwen, I am almost 3 years sober, but I'm struggling right now. I'm sure I'll get through it, but right now is a bit rough. Well, you know something? The start of anything good that happens is exactly what Buddha's doing. It's exactly what you're doing. The opposite of addiction is connection. And if you sit in the comment section and you're having that bad time and you're just reading what other people are saying, you're falling down on the job in terms of really starting any kind of healing process. Because when we hold these things inside and we don't let them out into the light, what ends up happening is it festers and it festers and it festers, and eventually we blow out. Usually when someone says, I'm really having a hard time right now, they're already in relapse. Now, I don't mean that they're drinking, right, or smoking or using, but they're in the process of sliding backwards. They're in the process of heading in that direction instead of the other. So that's absolutely the right thing that you're doing. Our bodies are fierce at telling us we need this or we need that, but our mind is way more powerful when it comes to controlling our bodies. There's the very battlefield that we struggle with. You're absolutely right. However, 99.9% of the population doesn't know that. And there are some training things that need to happen before you can start to control your, the urges and things like that. The key, though, in every one of these is if you want to win a fist fight with your substance of choice, the easy way to do that is to never get into a fist fight with your substance of choice, right? I mean, my mind is in the best position that it's been in my entire life, right? This is absolutely the focus of what I do. For most of my waking hours are spent researching or talking or trying to help people with nothing but this. But I promise you, man, 1 shot of heroin and I'm done, right? 1 shot, 1 hit. There's no chance of me pumping the brakes. You'll never see me again. I mean, I might loaf for a couple of days or a week or 2 until I really start getting out of control, but I'll be gone and I'll end up in prison or worse, right? The key is realizing, and I'm not a 12-step guy, but realizing that you truthfully can't control your substance of choice. That's key. That really is. If you don't like the word powerless, who cares? It's all semantics. But what it comes down to is, I promise you, if you have an abuse disorder for a specific substance, your ability to control the use of that substance you got a better chance of doing really crazy things. Everyone that came to mind right there was foul, so I didn't want to say it out loud. But you got a better chance of just doing something that you don't have a good chance of. You're not going to win that fight. Don't get in that fight. Truthfully, don't get in that fight. Zen Wen, you also reach out if you feel like you've got to a point where it's you feel like your things are crushing in on you. Don't wait and then come back and say, hey, you know what? It got so bad. You should say it got so bad. I reached out to somebody. I made a phone call. I made an email, and we're in the drop boxes, right? Just don't hesitate. Fire off an email. And if you fire one off at both of us, you're going to get one of us.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And
I want to
go ahead.
I want to address a comment here real quick.
Yeah.
I came across there. I can't remember who said it. Said something. I think they were talking to somebody else in the chat, but said that gabapentin does not have withdrawal. That is not correct. You can you do withdrawal for that. You can. So
yeah,
it wouldn't be exactly what you think a withdrawal would be, but you do have physical problems with that.
There are definitely things that happen when you quit gabapentin. It is not a physical dependency in the way that we think of opiates or alcohol or any of those. But there is an unpleasant period of time when you quit Neurontin, which is what the name brand of that of gabapentin was. When you quit Neurontin, there is a period of time where you're going to be wicked uncomfortable, and that is the truth. It's and I did it, and I had a pretty high dose of that. In fact, when I tell people what the dose is, they usually don't believe it. But I was in prison, and in prison that was like it was a sought after drug because you couldn't get the stuff you really wanted, so we all abused gabapentin.
Right.
Niall says, I remember someone once told me that if I continued the way I was, I would die screaming and be immediately forgotten. That was through the narcissist in me. That was close to my sobriety date. You know what? Very interesting, Niall. And you know why I love Niall? We butt heads. You know what I mean? From time to time, we disagree on things, but Niall, he has an innate ability to be brutally honest about himself. And I can't tell you how much I respect that. Honestly, when you can just come out and say any of the things that are shortcomings about who you are, you're dead square on the road to good things. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it does mean that you are absolutely heading in the right direction. And I don't know too many cats that are more honest about about who they are and where they are than Niall. I've always really dug that. I really, really have. So people, I know that the emails that I've got from people, there's nobody in this comment section right now. If they are in this comment section right now, they're not talking. The people who are here every night and are really interacting in the live chat have a real handle on where they're at in terms of, I am still having a hard time being accepted into the Facebook community. That's bizarre. Look, if you put in a request, I will fix that the second I get off of this. Literally. Just if you do it now, I could probably do it before I get off this. Oh. Chuck Norris says, no, don't ever get discouraged. You got to be open and talk about it. The triggering factors, where the hell is the mouse? The triggering fact, do you see that? I was starting to already get nasty. The triggering factors, nobody is going to judge you. We've all been down a dark road of some sort. Even if you talk to one person, you know what? One person will do it, right? The science says that we're looking at a couple of minutes that you need to get what you're struggling with out of your dome and something else into it. And more than likely, if you reach out to anybody that has anything to do with the boat and you say, hey, I'm really struggling, try getting off the phone with that person after 2 or 3 minutes. You know what I mean? There's usually that, why don't you talk to me a little bit longer, right? Spend a little bit more time with me on the phone, because the longer you talk to someone, usually the more you can bolster it up. I've had people literally begging to get off the phone with me. The computer is giving me the business tonight. I don't think it likes me. I really do not think it likes me. Leslie. Go ahead.
Guys, you know, this is a subject that we haven't talked about for a very long time, and I know that it doesn't really tend to spark a whole lot of, you know, I guess excitement if that's the case, but I think we need to talk about it from time to time because I think it helps us realize that there might be somebody right next to you that's in that, and they're just afraid to say something.
The other thing is, we're on a boat that this channel is such that there are people who go to YouTube and look for videos on how can I tell if I'm an addict, right? How can I tell if I'm an alcoholic? Like these are the kind of things that somebody whose window is open, right, is putting into the search. And what we want more than anything in the world is someone with their window open, right? Because that is really that's the wheelhouse for when we can get some really good things done. Niall says, my sobriety date is January 3rd, 2015. It was the worst day of my life, but it has proved to be the best. It is a miracle. You know what? It is. And I feel the exact same way. I really do. It's a miracle. And they happen, you know, everybody's miracle is different. You know, some people, it's really, you know, much easier than others. You know, I told you my story. I got stabbed and thrown into solitary confinement. And the best thing that ever happened to me, right? If I had said, hey, I got stabbed by such and such, they would have put me into general population in the hole, and I would have been able to get whatever I wanted. But because I wouldn't mention, you know, what group stabbed me, I had to be put into this little place that isolated me from everything else. Hindsight being 2020 and being really, really honest, I probably would have told on if I had known what was. I'm just telling you the truth.
No, hey, no, I'm not
if I had
judging
known
you.
how it was going to go down. Yeah.
I mean, who knows what you do in that position, but you know,
Yep.
and that's one of those things. And it's just like the subject tonight, like I said a minute ago. You know, just to be completely transparent about that happened to me this week in my own personal life. I had somebody really close to me ask me if I thought that they were that way. I think I talked to you a little bit about it before. Even before
you didn't give me any details, but you said that somebody close to you had.
And again, some of the things I mentioned tonight, you know, when you're hiding it, if you're hiding it and thinking that it's okay just to do it now and then take a few days off. Tommy actually addressed that earlier. You know, it's when your mind starts thinking, well, I've had a year done with this. I'll go right back to it and I'll be okay for a day or two. It doesn't mean that there's different kinds of addiction, is what I'm trying to say. And people come across it in different ways. And especially when we're not just talking about, and in this case, it's not just one drug. We're talking a gambit across everything.
And that's a lot of people. And, you know, it really is. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. And it comes down to those people that are basically people consider themselves. That's another thing that plays into the party scene. If you're not just doing one drug at a time, your brain doesn't really think that you're addicted to that. But you're addicted to doing all of it, not necessarily physically, but mentally in your head on the weekends. Come Wednesday, or if not Tuesday, or if not Monday, you're thinking, you know, heck, they make songs about it. Everybody's working for the weekend. I mean, what do you think they're talking about? I mean, go to a country concert one time and see how many beers are in the air. I mean, it's okay. Okay, I'm not saying that ain't okay for people that can handle it to go do, and if it ain't an issue for them. What I'm saying is for people like us, for people that cannot even allow yourself to do that one time. Because if you've had an alcohol problem, taking one drink is a problem. I'm sorry. If I go right now and walk down to the corner or go wherever I need to go to get some oxys or whatever, if I go do that right now and I don't do it tomorrow and I don't do it for another year, that's still a problem.
No question.
Because I've allowed that door to open. And what happens is, like what Buddha was talking about, if you've got that door open, you did that one time and you made it past it, right? And you think you're doing good again, and then your dog dies. Then what do you do?
Or anything else. Right?
Anything else. So I'm not picking on Buddha there at all.
No,
it's just an example for people to understand that once that door is open, it stays open until you close it completely. And you got to, and how you can close it completely is it's in your own mind. You can't allow yourself to be able to open the door again. You have to lock it, deadbolt it, treat it like a gun safe. I mean,
Right.
lock that sucker and don't open it back up. And don't let your friend come in and say, "Hey, can I see your new gun?"
You can't play with it.
Yeah, you
You
can't.
cannot play with it.
And again, guys, I this was kind of my subject tonight, and I know that it ain't the most exciting thing, but I think it's important. That we
I don't
talk.
know. Certainly got everybody talking.
Well, I feel like we
It's a
haven't.
good thing.
When it happened to me this week, and like Tommy talks a lot about how we pick a topic. It really does happen that way. If it's happening in our lives, if we're talking to people about stuff, we really kind of try to address it because, yeah, it's going through our minds and it's fresh. So, hey, Fee, how you feeling? Good to see you.
SG, good to see you. By the way, Freedom Fighter.
Oh,
Man,
Steve.
Freedom Fighter, go check and tell me you're not approved on the Facebook page. I'm not buying it. Hey, Fee, good to see you.
I wanted to
There
say, yeah, survival game. Ilea, hope you're feeling better. She was under the weather yesterday.
I knew that. I read that
I told
last night.
She said she had but I said you need to get some rest. She said she had some laundry to do and dishes to wash, and I said, well, that's why you have kids.
Right. And train them, right? We've already seen that they're a talented crew.
Yep.
Excuse me, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Steve. I'm sorry.
Can I put in a request for prayers for Blue's mother who had a fall last night?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. Sure.
Everybody hear that? We need thoughts, prayers, and positive energy for Blue's mom. And you start getting older. When my dad was was getting on in age, falls are horrible. It's really, really it can be terrible stuff. So can we please do that, everybody?
Put a 2 in the chat for prayers. How about that? Let's just do that from
Yeah.
now on.
Right.
I
I like it.
You like that? Let's just do that because we do a lot of that. So I mean, and the channel seems to be getting a little bigger. Pat on my own back. No, I'm just kidding.
Knock yourself out.
I'm proud of that. I really am, and it ain't because of the number. It's just because of the people that are here and the people that have gotten help and have better lives now because of all you guys and me and Tommy.
AJOT, get over there right now and go put a request in. And I promise you're not going to have a problem. Kylie Morrison says, thank you for being such a good captain to this boat that has given me more love and compassion since day one. And you created this family. Thanks. You know what? I would love to take the credit for that. I really would. But if you've been here since the beginning, ask any of the really old timers. They built a boat and they were just cool enough to let me sit at the wheel, which has really been cool. I figure at some point they're going to wise up and then I'm going to get tossed overboard. But in the meantime, I'm having an awful lot of fun.
I'll be grabbing your leg. Screw that.
Okay, good.
You coming back on board, brother? I ain't doing this by myself. I promise you that. That's a job.
Right. Yeah, I love. I really could not be any happier.
Yeah.
This is really, this is one of the big joys of my life. Buddha says, yeah, I'll email you, Tommy. Long story. I'll make it as short as possible. You don't even have to do that. It's all right. I can read. 4 major back surgeries. 80% of my back is fused. 16 was first and then 18. And yeah. You don't have to make it short. Just shoot me the story. I promise I'll read it.
Can I make a suggestion with that real quick, guys?
Sure.
And I'm not saying this because I don't think people understand technology or anything, but I'm saying this to try to help you guys. When you guys go to write those kinds of emails, if you turn on your text to speech or your speech to text, you can just say what you think, and it'll put it in the chat. Not in the chat, but in the email, and you can send it that way. So I know some people actually have dexterity things with their hands and stuff like that, and it makes it difficult. So if you can just do that, and if you need help with those kinds of things, you can always email me. I can help you find and know what button to push or what have you. And if you have your spell and your grammar check on, it shouldn't come across as like Chinese to somebody. And that's,
and tomorrow night, people, I know that I was trying to get Virginia in tonight, and I think So Virginia, if you're listening tomorrow, I want you on the call. She sent me a couple of emails today that I really would like Virginia to come on here and speak a little bit. I think
Well, if you want to do it that way, she can. We can get her in here before the show starts and get her set up.
You know what? I'll reach out to her and see if she's cool with that, and that's what we'll do. That would be good.
Okay.
Major, by the way, Major said, you know what? I could go and walk down the street right now, and I could go get a beer if I really wanted to. Of course, I could also walk down the street right now and get a load of heroin, because what's the difference? Well, I'll tell you something, man. If that doesn't hit you, that's major good stuff, bud. Really is. That kind of
Yep.
the realization of that is really beautiful stuff. It may not seem like it, but I swear to God, that's beautiful stuff.
Congrats on
Kylie
that.
says, if we are requesting prayers, really quick, can everybody pray for my brother, Shannon?
Yes.
He's been in a coma for the last month. Oh, no.
That's horrible.
He recently woke up, but he doesn't remember anything. Yeah. Well, thank God he woke up, huh? Yeah. Shannon and Blue's mom. Absolutely. Thank you, Kylie.
Yes.
Everybody got that?
And Major, congrats on the new dog. I mean, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
New
Do we have a
pets are
name
awesome.
for this dog yet? I feel like he's being really lazy on naming this thing. I'm just a pinch disappointed that this dog does not have a name.
We got to pray for one of our own, too. We got to pray for Linda. You know, she's going through some physical stuff right now, guys. So, Linda Pierce in the chat.
Yep.
She's here tonight. Prayers for her, too. Yeah. So, but no.
Annoyed, thank you for being part of the crew, man. Really, thanks for being part of the crew. You know what? This family's getting better every day. There's just no way around it. We're getting better every single day. Ronnie Bostic. I don't remember saying hi to Ronnie Bostic.
Survival Game says, name her Cujo. Hey, we got a Cujo in the chat.
We have a Cujo.
Yep.
We can't do that. Ronnie Bostic, welcome to the boat.
Yes.
If I've never welcomed you, I apologize if I have. Got this thing going on up here. I kind of forget stuff.
I believe it's his first time, Tommy. I said something to him earlier. So I think it's just to let you know. So.
And there's Cujo. You see that?
Yep. Don't be jumping through my car window, man. I still have like
Right?
freaking nightmares over that when I was a kid, dude.
That was a pretty vicious movie. It really was. You
It
got to be
was.
from the 80s for that. If not, I lost 3 friends, all to drugs. Please reach out to somebody. You know, I was
Wow.
going back and forth with somebody in the chat last night, and I don't know who's left. Honestly, outside of me and Jack, I don't think anybody is. It's horrible,
crazy,
but
isn't
it's
it?
the nature
to
of the
think
beast.
of. It really is.
If I had a dog, I would name him Buddy. You know what? I don't have either. I do have a cat.
Wow. Yvonne,
basket.
what's up?
Yeah, Von S. Good to see you.
Yep. Saying hi to
I
you.
think Grace would be a beautiful name. You know what? Grace is a beautiful name. So we will be back tomorrow night, people. Thank you so much for being so engaged this evening. Oh, no. The cat is standing up in the basket. I've never had this happen before.
Uh-oh.
Lay down, you lazy cat. But we will be back tomorrow night. You have my word. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
And this is a cat sitting up in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.